Hi there, welcome back for chapter 37. Jack woke up to the sight of stones moving all by themselves below him. It was interesting. Apparently, the world on land had learned some new tricks since they'd been gone. Then feeling began to return to his legs, and he realized he was being dragged along the stone hallways of a castle. A castle? They'd survived! Jack almost laughed before the reality of the situation sank in. Being dragged along by people with what looked to be swords was usually a bad sign. You are awake, Philip said from his side. I feared you were permanently injured. The day's still young, Jack told him, his head pounding with every word. It was hard to tell which hurt more, the real pain of what had to have been a horrifying crash into the castle, or what Leanne had just told him, his father. Everything he had to live with all his life, everything he'd gone through, the fact that he was seen as the son of a criminal and nothing more, and Leanne knew where his father was. Tell the prisoners to be quiet, someone ahead of them ordered. Be quiet, a guard holding Jack's right shoulder said. I like how they pretend we didn't hear the first guy, Jack told Philip. The prince, meanwhile, just shook his head, quieting down. A fountain of anti-authority, Philip was not. Being dragged as he was, there wasn't much Jack could see. From what he could tell, the guards had May in front of them, with what seemed to be a monkey tail growing out of the back of her shirt. Okay, that was new. Behind him, Jack could hear Bluebeard grunting and groaning, but given that he wasn't shouting threats at the guards, Jack assumed that the pirate was still unconscious. More important than the pirate, though, was, Did you notice this one's eyes? One guard behind Jack asked. They're yellow, and she's got claws and fangs. Mermaid spy, most likely, whoever was in charge, said from the front. Tie her up and gag her. Can't take any chances with the king. The guard did just that, and soon Megan was being dragged right along beside Jack, her eyes flaring with anger as they passed through some kind of elaborate doorway into a tiled room. Your Majesty, the guard said in front of them, we've brought you the shipwrecked survivors, including what we believe to be a mermaid spy. The ship did indeed bear your royal seal, though we haven't had ships on the water for 50 years. Many of the crew escaped off the back, but we have guards chasing them down. What? Me crew? Bluebeard mumbled, still sounding asleep. Get them to their feet, a man's voice said from a distance. Who are these people? The guards roughly jerked Jack to his feet, and he looked up to find a middle-aged man who looked far too beaten down for his age, and far too small for a large, threadbare robe and oversized crown missing half its jewels. Your Majesty, said a shocked older man's voice from behind the crowded man. Look, the man in the blue beard. I recognize that voice, Bluebeard mumbled and then gasped. Farnsworth, my old chancellor. Martine, Farnsworth said. By the sea, Martine! It can't be, the king said, striding forward to Bluebeard, then holding the pirate up by his shoulders. Brother! That robe never did fit you, Fjord, Bluebeard said, then grabbed the man with both arms and shouted joyfully as he embraced him, several bones cracking in the process. Martine, King Fjord shouted. Guards, release these people. My brother has returned. The guards awkwardly released them, and Jack watched as the two least likely siblings in the world clapped each other's back and looked each other over, both seemingly a little disappointed by what they saw, but both trying to hide it. Ford, said a woman's voice from the doorway behind them. Who is this? Ah, Meritopota, Ford shouted. Meet my older brother, returning to us after almost 40 years missing. After years of searching, we gave up all hope. Yet hope may always be rewarded if patience remains, as proven by my brother. Yes, I get it, Meritopota said, looking over Martine with some distaste. He is not the rightful king, then, is he? I would hate to think I am engaged to the wrong brother. That would be truly horrible, Ford said, looking everywhere but at Meritopota. Engaged, Brother Martine said. I see that congratulations are in order. Ah, indeed, Ford said, and now looking everywhere but at Martine. Guards, take the mermaid to the dungeon. We'll want to question her as soon as... You'll do no such thing, Martine roared, leaping over to Megan and clutching her to him protectively. If I have any authority left here whatsoever, you will leave this woman be. The guards glanced among themselves, not sure who to listen to. You gave up your authority when you left the kingdom, Martine, the Chancellor Farnsworth said. Ford and Martine looked at each other, and Martine frowned. I did leave the kingdom in Ford's care long ago, he said. Yes, it might be a little worse for wear, but I'm sure he did the best he could. Left it, Ford said, forcing a laugh. You abandoned us to chase after that mermaid. And then his voice trailed off as his eyes went wide and he looked at Megan. Martine, what did you do? Nothing I wouldn't do again, Martine said, wrapping his arm around Megan protectively, despite her attempts to sneak out of them. That explains the warning we received, Farnsworth said quietly. Ford nodded and his eyes still on Martine. This is so like you, Ford said. You've been missing for 40 years, and the day you come back, you bring a war to the very steps of your kingdom. I don't care what I bring, Martine shouted. I would do anything for this woman. At the expense of your people, Ford shouted. Do you have any idea what is about to happen when the Sea King invades? I have quite a good one, Martine said, his eyes blazing. Call the soldiers. I'll lead them myself. You will lead nothing, Ford said, glaring at his brother. Fortunately for our people, I've already taken steps to protect them. Martine went deadly silent for a moment. Tell me of those steps, he said finally. A visitor arrived just yesterday, Ford said, a smile overtaking his face. A visitor at the head of his own army, an army that could have overtaken the castle easily. Fortunately for us, we recognized him as the hero he is, and he brought warning of an upcoming incursion by the Sea King. Proof came with the tidal wave that brought you here, and our spotters reported churning beneath the waves approaching shore. This visitor, Jack said, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. Who is he? Ford barely looked at Jack. A great man, an ally of the long-lost Snow White. Jack swallowed hard as a rough voice laughed behind him, sounding like rocks scraping against one another. Oh, the boy knows quite well who I am, your majesty. Jack, May, and Philip all slowly turned around to find the Wolf King in human form, standing in the doorway, 2 goblin guards flanking him. The wolf smiled at them, baring his teeth. Good to see you again, children. Even without the heroism, it would have been hard to say no to the Wolf King's offer of alliance, Ford said with a hopeful smile. After all, he didn't ask for much, just a favor. Indeed, the Wolf King said. In return for destroying the merman army about to invade your shores, all I ask is that King Ford help me return some wayward children to their homes. Thank you for your aid, your majesty, but I can take them from here. I'll see you guys next time for chapter 38. Bye.